ball, sends it over to Edward Robles. Goal, insert name FC. Let's go, insert name FC.
What is up, everybody? My name is Hector Flores, host of the Insert Name FC podcast and member of the BellyUpSports Media Network. You can find us on all things podcasting, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast fix from, you will find us there. Also, video versions of this podcast. The full episode is available on BellyUp's YouTube channel at BellyUpSports. Go ahead and search us there on their YouTube channel. We do break those episodes down into more digestible short video forms. Those you can find on our YouTube channel at Insert Name FC. But yeah, also you can watch all of us. We're also available on GolzTV, GOZ.TV. Just search it. You'll see a lot of great content there. Just if you guys want to see Americans' perspective on the game, not the dumb American text, just just Americans' perspective in general. You can go find us there at GolzTV. And also follow us on social media on Instagram, X, Facebook at Insert Name FC. But yeah, this is the season finale of this season. Obviously we already recapped the leagues, but there was one match left, and that was, of course, the Champions League final. So we're going to go ahead and recap the final in this episode. We'll also have some headlines to talk about, just give you guys some final thoughts. Messi and Suarez created a club, so we're going to talk about that. Liga MX, they're making some changes going into 2026, so, we're going to talk about that as well. And, of course, Lamine Yamal, we're going to talk about him. He just inked a new deal with Barcelona, so we'll talk about that guy. We're going to recap the Europa Conference League and the Champions League final, so we're going to recap that, announce players of the week. Give you guys some games to watch this weekend. Once again, this is the final episode of the season for us. This episode is we're gonna give you some games, of course, but this is gonna be our season finale. We'll be taking a break during the summer. We will record an episode to preview the Club World Cup and the Gold Cup, or if there's any more tournaments, we'll also preview that as well. We'll do a preview for Leagues Cup as well, but we'll just do a preview. Maybe do a recap of the group stages and then preview the knockout rounds. We'll probably do that as well. So it's just gonna be like episodes here and there, but not like the format that we normally have it as. So just so you guys know, and then obviously we'll kick back off to preview the seasons for roughly like around August. We'll probably kick back up and preview the next season of European football. So we're going to be sticking towards the European football schedule. But so that's what we're going to do. I mean, obviously MLS is still going to be much a thing. And yeah, I mean, it's not like we're not going to not be doing anything. We're going to still be fairly active as we can. And I mean, I'll be doing some stuff with Belly Up and of course GolzTV. So I'm excited and I can't wait for all that to transpire. But yes, this is going to be the last episode for this season for Insert Name FC. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Let me tell you guys about BellyUpSports. BellyUpSports is the internet sports bar. Go ahead and check out their website, www.bellyupsports.com, to read some great articles from great writers all across the country, from hockey, baseball, golf, soccer, you name it. BellyUpSports is the premier, not your average website. All right, guys. We'll kick things off with headlines. So, no Edward today. So, it's this weekend with the boys. All right. So, headlines. Messi and Suarez are creating a club. So, the duo that has been known for their time at Barcelona and obviously now with Inter Miami have created a team in Uruguay. It is in the 4th division because they created it, so they have to start in the lower ranks. and the club will be called Deportivo LSM. Deportivo LSM, which is kind of a combination of their initials, Luis Suarez, Lionel Messi. That's the reason. But so it is a passion job that both Messi and Suarez have been wanting to do. It is one of those things that Messi does eventually want to become a club owner. I know that is a stipulation in his contract with the MLS, so I wonder if there's going to be any correlation with that endeavor with Messi's future endeavors. But so Luis Suarez has a quote. He says, "Today I want to offer Uruguayan football, which I love and I grew up with since I was a kid. The opportunities and tools to help all teenagers and children grow. That's why with the club, we want to begin competing in the AUF, Uruguayan Football Federation world, which is something that excites us enormously, is a huge step forward for me and my family in a project we believe in." Obviously, Luis Suarez is from Uruguay. Uruguay, obviously, a very small but very proud football nation. One of the smaller nations that have developed a lot of top players. A team, a national team that many people do have some sort of belief that they could be a very competitive team for years to come. And once again, with their size, being able to still bring out top talent that's being played across the world. Essentially, Suarez wants to amplify that even further by creating this club, because in reality, a lot of these guys like Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez, Cristiano Ronaldo, they didn't have everything handed to them. They had to work hard, play in the streets. Some of them couldn't even afford equipment, and still here they are making names for themselves. And I think it's interesting that this endeavor, and I think Uruguay is an interesting league. I think it's interesting that they chose Uruguay first. I think the reason being is just that as far as my correlation with Uruguayan football is there's not much to know, and so I feel like maybe they feel that they can build a strong club and move up in the ranks and become one of those powerful sides for years to come. And I think that maybe that's the route that they wanted to attend initially. Maybe do we see a club in Argentina? Do we see maybe an affiliate in MLS? It's very interesting to think of how that all that thought process can go in and correlate with each other. But it is, obviously it's a passion project for Luis Suarez. It's in his home ground. He's very familiar with the Football Federation in Uruguay. I think that maybe because of his familiarity and maybe Messi agreeing that maybe this is a good place to build a club, and obviously him and Suarez have their friendship and their relationship that they both can work together and get this done. So, and Messi's thoughts is this dream doesn't end here. Sharing it with our family, friends, and close friends. Okay. We've experienced many things in common since we were kids. We've shared so many experiences at the top of football, and that's why today I'd love to introduce a friend, a teammate. This project is the perfect place to continue sharing our vision of football, to have the same vision since our beginnings. Once again, it's finding those diamonds in the rough. It's those guys, those kids that maybe don't have the resources that other kids do, and I think that's the end goal, right? That's the objective as to why they're reaching out to Uruguay. And I think it's interesting. Once again, it's interesting that they're going after Uruguay. I think already very strong football nation, given its size. But I think once again, Luis Suarez, his connection to the country, Messi, a neighboring country to Uruguay. And like I said, like you said, this isn't where it doesn't end here. So that tells me everything, that this is going to be a passion project that him and Suarez are going to work together in. I do believe that we're going to see an Argentinian affiliate. And once again, like I mentioned, Messi does have a stipulation in his contract when he does end up leaving MLS that he's going to be able to buy an MLS club. And so I'm thinking that Messi has his vision, and he's going to build a future where people are going to be able to, that don't have the resources, to get a seat at the table, get their opportunity. Obviously, MLS it might be a little bit trickier, just being that pay to play and and all that comes with that. It could be very tricky, but I think it's still very interesting. I think Deportivo LSM, as we're gonna say, Deportivo LSM is going to be a very interesting journey. I want to see how they progress through the ranks. Obviously, it's not going to be all well. We say that, but then obviously we saw what happened with Wrexham. But it's going to be interesting. To see. And I think that there's going to be more conversations because of this. One, it's a cool project. I think it's really fun. Not fun. I think it's a cool project. I think it's a really great ambition that both these players have, that they want to continue to grow the game in their home countries. Obviously, once again, this is all pending if Messi somehow gets hit over to Argentina as well. And do we see it also be implemented here in the U.S.? Those are some of the questions that I'm kind of intrigued to see. But right now, I think that this is awesome. I think it's cool. We'll see how this club progresses. As far as I know, the facilities, it's the facilities that Luis Suarez already owns in Uruguay, so it's perfect. So match made in heaven already there. So like I said, I'm very intrigued, and I can't wait to see how all this transpires. And do we see this Deportivo LSM? Do we see them in Copa Libertadores someday? Obviously, they have a journey to go through before they can get into that conversation, but still a very interesting story to follow. And once again, I'm not very familiar with Uruguayan football. I know that I'm the only club that I'm really familiar with is the club where Valverde came from, but aside from that, I really don't know many of the clubs in over there in Uruguay. But once again, Uruguay is a nation that I have a very big soft spot for. A lot of players that I generally like are Uruguayan. Vicente Sanchez starting it all for that. But obviously Diego Forlan, Luis Suarez, Valverde right now. But Uruguay's always been a really good club, and I've always liked their national team. Muslera, obviously he just announced that he will be leaving Galatasaray after being there for 25 years. I don't know if he's retiring or not, but I just know he's leaving Galatasaray. But still, a guy that I view as a very underrated goalkeeper. Uruguay is just it's a national team that I have a big soft spot for. I think it's a very strong football, especially in South America, a strong football powerhouse. And I think if you can really unlock it a little bit more, this team could be very dangerous for years to come in not only in Copa America but also potentially in the World Cup. So we'll see how all that goes. But it's a really cool endeavor. I can't wait to get more information on this. I think it's awesome, but we'll see what happens there. Liga MX, man. So it's funny because me and Edward we were talking about the criticism that Liga MX gets, right? And then now we're hearing this. So there was an owners meeting to discuss changes in Liga MX. Essentially, the goal is to raise the level of competition. They want to get a better product in Liga MX, and I think after we watched the final for the Clausura, seeing how Toluca overcame their obstacles and beat Club America, ending their chances of a 4-peat, right? I think that this is telling about that they believe that this could raise the level of the competition. And I think one of the biggest complaints that I've had with Liga MX is that play-in format. I don't like the play-in round. I think it needs to be removed. Well, not for the 2026 Apertura, the 2025 Apertura, but the 2026 Clausura, it will be removed. There will not be a play-in for the 2026 Clausura. Now, I don't know if for the 2026 Apertura if it's going to continue or if it's just because of that. Because the sole purpose of removing the play-in is because, obviously, 2026, what's coming? The FIFA Club World Cup. So removing the play-in format. The other thing that's going to be added in 2026 is that the playoff teams will not be able to use players that are going to be on the Mexican national team, because obviously at that point you're talking about summertime in kind of near the summer. Obviously it finished here in May, so those players are going to be preparing for the 2026 World Cup, which obviously Mexico is hosting, is one of the hosts for the World Cup in 2026. So I think the objective obviously is to be very much prepared for this team, because there's going to be a lot of pressure for Mexico. One, it's Mexico. There's always pressure with Mexico when it comes to their national team. But secondly, this is the World Cup, right? And not only that, the World Cup is going to be here in North America. Mexico, USA, and Canada. They're going to have matches in Mexico, so you're going to feel the pressure from the fans. You're going to have that home field advantage from the fans, more so than ever. And I think that's going to be a lot of pressure. And they want to make sure that they put out the best product that they can possibly. Obviously, there's a lot of pressure because of just how Mexico has been lately in tournaments, not including Nations League, obviously, but and we'll see how this Gold Cup transpires. But I will point out, I just want to point this out, when they drop the training camp roster, I guess for the friendlies, it's a bigger roster than what the U.S. men's national team is bringing out, but it is a lot of names that you would expect to be on the Mexican national team. Now, are they going to be on the Gold Cup roster? Because once again, it is, I believe it's like 35, maybe a 35, 37 man roster. So obviously they got to shrink it down to 26. But still, Raul Jimenez is going to be there. Santiago Jimenez is going to be there. Memo Ochoa is on the list. Hey guys, this is Hector from the Insert Name FC podcast, here to tell you guys about Canada Dips. It is a great tasting, superior alternative to traditional dip, using CBD in a way that is radical, enjoyable, and effective. It comes in 5 core flavors: wintergreen, mint, citrus, mango, and American spice. Canada Dip CBD is the new evolution in dip, allowing guys to enjoy great, long-lasting taste without the downsides. If you guys want to go ahead and try them out, use the code BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com. Once again, BellyUp20 at CanadaDipCBD.com, and you'll get yourself 20% off your purchase. Thank you again for Canada Dips for being a great partner of BellyUpSports. The guys that you expect to be playing for the Mexican national team are on that roster. Like I said, I think maybe they're just being brought in there to play the friendlies, and then Gold Cup comes, maybe they take them out. I hope that's not the case, because once again, kind of the similar pressures that the U.S. men's national team is facing going into this Gold Cup is the same thing for Mexico and Canada, because once again, they don't have to play qualifiers. They're automatically in the World Cup because they're hosting it, right? So this is the last chance of having competitive matches for them, aside from just having friendlies with tougher competition. So for me, this is going to be a big understanding of where Mexico's taking, where Aguirre and where the Mexican national team, how they're going to pursue the Gold Cup. Are they going to take it similar to how the U.S. did it, where you're letting players opt out? And once again, I'm not changing my stance on it. I'm still very much I don't like what they did. I don't like that a lot of guys were given the option to opt out. I understand that tiresome, and I get Eric Ronaldo's position and how he felt about it. But once again, this is the last chance you're getting competitive matches, and after the embarrassment that you had in the Nations League, you would think you want to flip that narrative. And once again, maybe they have a legitimate reason. I get Yunus Musa needs to figure out the guys that need to figure out their club situations. I get those. I get those guys wholeheartedly. But guys that know where they're going to be playing, and once again, not including the guys that are competing in the Club World Cup. I'm talking about just guys like Christian Pulisic, who I would have liked to have seen, but he is giving a rest. For however I felt about that, it's still how it is. But once again, I'm very much intrigued how Mexico and Canada is going to approach this. If we see Raul Jimenez on the roster, if we see guys, if we see Santiago Jimenez, if we see the expected guys, the usual suspects for L3, if we see them on the roster, that tells me that Mexico wants to get as much as they can out of this Gold Cup. Despite, I get it, it's not the same competition as you'll get in the World Cup. I get those things. It's not the same competition as you get in Copa America. I get that, but it's what you have. I don't you can't change. I mean, you could probably change your confederation, but you saw Australia, but does Mexico want to go to CONMEBOL? That's a whole other discussion for a whole other day. But right now that you're in CONCACAF, you play in CONCACAF, you have to play CONCACAF competitions. So at the end of the day, you can't do anything about it. Like the Gold Cup is the Gold Cup. They always invite one nation from another confederation to join. This year it's Saudi Arabia. So I think they tried to invite Argentina. Argentina said no. So what else you want to be done? But once again, like I do want to see what Canada and Mexico do, because if they bring out a B team, then I guess no one cares about this Gold Cup. But if Mexico brings out, I would say if they bring out like a hybrid A team, and I think I'll give some props to U.S. men's national team players. Some of them, it is kind of like a hybrid A B team, because there is guys that you would expect to play for the U.S. men's national team. So if it's a hybrid A B team, if it's similar to that, maybe there's some players that do want to participate, and then maybe there's guys that are like, nah, I'll sit this one out, But I want to see what Mexico does as far as their official 26-man roster, and the same thing for Canada, because once again, it goes back down to expectations. I mean, once again, this isn't me taking jabs on all the guys that maybe we don't view as potential U.S. men's national team players, because those guys this is their opportunity to showcase, like, hey, man, I think you should give me another look for the 2026 World Cup, and I get all that. But anyways, coming back to Mexico, essentially the changes is to put more of an effort for the Mexican national team, especially going into 2026, and this is what Ariola had to say. To maximize the home field advantage and strengthen the national team, the Clausura 2026 playoffs will be played without selected players. They will join the national team 6 weeks prior to start the World Cup. This would give us 50% more preparation matches than other countries, which must also be against top-level opponents. So they want to get as much as they can, build as much chemistry, build as much camaraderie between these guys prior to this World Cup, because once again, it's going to be played on their home soil. Like, they want to put out their best product ever, to showcase that they are more than capable of it. Also, Aguirre wants 2 friendlies in January 2026, so they want to have their version of Camp Cupcake, which I believe they do it actually. But yeah, so I wish it was funny because we called it Camp Concha. But yeah, I mean, but I think he wants to have like 2 legitimate friendlies. Obviously, they said that they want to play against top level opponents. The only issue with that January, there's no official international friendly period. So whoever you play against it's just whoever is available, whoever can play, and is more likely not going to be an A team, if you will, kind of similar to what we mentioned with Camp Cupcake. One of the big issues with Camp Cupcake is that, yeah, you're playing a friendly, but you're not necessarily playing a friendly against good competition, because it may be a B or a C or even a D team at times for that. And that's kind of why Camp Cupcake isn't really a camp for guys that are playing in Europe, or guys that you would expect to be playing for the U.S. men's national team. But I think that this time around, that's what Aguirre wants, is to be able to bring in the guys that will be competing in the 2026 World Cup, and have friendlies against opponents that are very much going to be allowing their players to play in. So I wonder if FIFA is going to do anything differently, because 2026 it is the World Cup, but we'll find out when we get there, I guess. But there's other things that Liga MX is planning on changing. So they plan on upgrading their offside technology. It was one of the, I guess, a big argument, a big issue this season, was the offside technology just wasn't as up to par as other leagues are. So they wanted to upgrade that, kind of, once again, clean up the game a little bit easier. I'm intrigued of how all that, like, what happens to the goal scoring aspect as far as the game goes, but I think obviously trying to make it as accurate as possible, because once again, and I think this is also just a preparation for the World Cup. So I think that's kind of where that comes into play. Leagues Cup will be played midweek. So there's going to be a lot of changes with Leagues Cup. It's going to still, I believe, Liga MX is still going to be trying to play their regular season. As a matter of fact, it's not all the teams. Actually, Liga MX, all the teams are playing in the Leagues Cup, but they're trying to make it a midweek thing. With that being said, they're trying to lessen the number of double match weeks, which obviously that means having a midweek match. They want to lessen that more, which is kind of ironic because you just threw out Leagues Cup. But I think when they're talking about when Leagues Cup is over, not having so many matches being played midweek, just having more games focused on the weekends. And I think that just goes down to scheduling and how that's going to work. It's going to be, I'm intrigued by that, but I do agree. I think this goes back to my argument that we were just overworking these players. But yeah, that I think that's a really good thing that they're talking about. Reforms in signing foreign players. So they're trying to, I'm assuming what they're saying that is they're trying to minimize the amount of foreign players being signed. There is a lot of foreign players right now in Mexico. I don't think that's a bad thing or anything like that, but once again, this is just my thought process. The league, I think, has an obligation for the national team of their country, right? So Liga MX has an obligation to El Tri, to develop Mexican players and be playing Mexican players, and utilizing Mexican players for the sake of the national team. And, obviously, for years, that's always been the case for Liga MX. Most of the players that have played in the Mexican national team were players from Liga MX, not players from overseas. I think it's cool that we have more Mexican players overseas. There's nothing wrong with it. But once again, this is your hub. This is where you're developing all your talent. If Europe wants to get those guys, that's just more money towards the club. And I think that's a different issue right there. But I think the reform on signing foreign players, I think once again, bringing big names guys to kind of similar to MLS, except a little bit different, I guess you can say. But just because the league is somewhat better than MLS as far as competitiveness goes. So I think that's an interesting thing to be brought up. I wonder what they mean by that. Like, what is there going to be a certain percentage of foreign players that you're allowed to have on each roster, and how do they enforce that, and what is going to be what's the terminology going to be used in order to I guess shrink the number of foreign players playing in Liga MX. And I think that kind of follows up to the next thing that they also want to do, which is increase the minimum minutes for youth players under Liga MX developmental rules. So they want their academy products playing. They want to see they want to see Mexican players playing, and putting in, and they're going to be putting in, like, these guys got to play a combination of this many minutes on overall. So I think that's going to, this is a rule that I very much agree. I want MLS to implement something similar to that. I think that they need to be pushing more harder on having academy players. There needs to be more of an initiative, more of an incentive to develop players, and having players come out of the academy, not going to college, but also coming into the first team. I think last year everyone praised the Houston Dynamo for having the most amount of guys playing in MLS Next Pro. That's cool, but none of them have been featured in the MLS team. So, while that is cool that there's so many academy players playing on MLS Next Pro, when are we going to see these guys go to the first team and play first team minutes? I think that's going to be the next question, right? So I think that there needs to be, I don't know about forcing the number of minutes on a player could be the thing. I think maybe just having an incentive program for MLS teams that are able to have players that are going to be playing minutes in the MLS, I think is going to be an interesting. Once again, I haven't fully thought out this thing. I'm just saying that there needs to be some sort of incentive program, not program. I want to say there's a certain incentive into having MLS Next players make it to your first team. Like, there needs to be some sort of initiative on that part. And I'm liking this because this is a good idea. I think that this is going to push, looking at the development of some of your players in your academy system, seeing what they're doing and if they're ready to go out there and play in the first team and get those minutes, So I think that that's going to be a good thing. And then the last thing, I don't know if it's official or not, but they are working on bringing back promotion relegation in Liga MX. If you guys aren't familiar, the way they did promotion relegation, it was at the end of the calendar year, which obviously Apertura and Clausura, once those were concluded, the team with the lowest the lowest team, the worst team, right? The worst team from the two seasons combined, I gets relegated. I don't know if it's two or three, or I think it's just one. One team gets relegated down, and then obviously the champion gets promoted to Liga MX. At least that's how I remembered it. I could be wrong on that part, but they're working on setting a date when they're going to bring back promotion relegation, which I think is a good thing. I think that's good. Once again, it just works. It just works overall for the league. I mean, it gives you consequences if you're not performing. Because honestly, there's some teams in Liga MX that maybe do need to go down to the second division. They, there's nothing wrong against them, but they just need to be able to develop. And I don't think staying in on top of Liga MX, is going to help them. And obviously, this, me saying this, someone's going to be like, "Well, how do you feel about MLS?" Yes, at some point, I do want to see promotion relegation to MLS. Do I think that we're still in a time where that's going to be a thing? I still don't. I think once again, we'll see what USL does. If USL is able to put in, can show that people are still going to watch and support teams if they get relegated. Because once again, it's just U.S. sports culture is just it's a weird thing to explain. So that's the only reason I'm not too confident in promotion relegation. That's just my reasoning. Everyone has their reasons for promotion relegation. Like I said, do I want to see promotion relegation in the U.S.? Yes, I want to see it done at some point. I just need to see if the fandom is going to be there, and I think that's the alarming concern right now for a lot of MLS teams. I think a lot of teams want to see promotion relegation. The worry is just, is it going to hurt the team more than it is? But I do believe there needs to be consequences. Also, Greg Vanney got a contract extension after, and they finally, and LA Galaxy just finally got their first win of the season. So let that sink in. But just to wrap things up real quick, other things that are going on in Liga MX, Mark Spiegel, he is has gotten his riches from waste management, technology, innovative technology, and also is a co-owner of Rubicon Global. He is prepared to buy Querétaro from Grupo Caliente, which is another thing that I also want to see fixed in Liga MX is people that have multi-ownerships. Obviously, once again, the whole issue that happened with Club León, where they had to they had to remove Club León from the Club World Cup. Also, congratulations to LAFC. They beat Club America to this. So now we're gonna have another MLS team in the Club World Cup. So that's interesting. But yeah, so Club León wasn't able to qualify because they're also part of Pachuca's ownership group, which Pachuca is competing in the Club World Cup. So because of that, that eliminated them. So I think that Liga MX, maybe I'm not saying Liga MX has to force these teams, the teams that have like more than one team to sell their players, but sell their teams. But I think obviously to prevent that from happening again, they do need to do it. So Mark Spiegel is going to buy Querétaro, which I'll be honest, Querétaro has been. It's an interesting club just because obviously I think they still just have that stain on them from what happened a few years ago with the riot. Not gonna touch base on. I'm not gonna bring it up anymore, but obviously from that incident, and I think maybe some to the point where Grupo Caliente were just happened to be the teams that the ownership group that was willing to have ownership of this club. But yeah, so Mark Spiegel, an American, is looking to invest into Querétaro. So I'll be interested to see if the purchase does happen, and what exactly is he planning on implementing to kind of move on from that whole stain for Querétaro. So we'll see what happens there. And then Pumas and Atlas are currently banned from registering players by FIFA. It's a really interesting thing. I don't know. They've just been having issues on registering players, and I think because of that, I think they were one. I think it was Atlas. They actually did register the players. They just didn't do it by the deadline. Which, I mean, I'm not saying like, oh, give them a slap on the wrist or anything like that. But like, I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta, if there's a deadline, there's a deadline, and I guess both Pumas and Atlas just violated those, and that's why. And I believe also Pumas is still dealing with the whole Dani Alves thing. But yeah, because of that, FIFA is banning them from registering players, so they won't be able to make any transfers. So we'll see what happens, man. Maybe they utilize that youth player minimum, the minimum thing. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, Liga MX, man, there's going to be a lot of changes happening. I can't wait to see it. Once again, it's cool that they're focusing on improving the Mexican national team, and I think that is what needs to be done for any league. I think even MLS needs to get into it. But all right, Lamine Yamal, the last headline. So Lamine Yamal has signed. I believe he has signed it now. They are locking Lamine Yamal to Barcelona to a long-term deal. It is a 6-year deal. It is June 2031 will be the day that's when his contract will expire. So it is a long-term contract, and it does come with bonuses, specifically a Ballon d'Or bonus. So it is a huge win-win to me. One, Yamal gets to continue his story with Barcelona. I think, obviously wanting to build a legacy with Barcelona, being viewed as the heir apparent to Messi. Obviously I don't want to put that kind of pressure on him, but obviously he just continues to build his legacy because, I mean, kid's only been 2 years in, and he's already accomplished so much at such a young age. And I think the other win, he gets to continue the story, but here's the thing, in my opinion, for the win is his contract runs up when he's 23 years old. He's not even at his prime yet. So, if he continues to be playing at the trajectory that he's in, like a potential world-class player, he's definitely in the conversation of world-class, but I think, potentially, because we can't be throwing out world-class just to anybody, but even though once again, he is very much close to it. 23 years old, you're already experienced as it is. Like, Barcelona's going to have to cough up a little bit more money for him, so it's just things are looking great for in that part. And then for Barcelona, their win is they have control of a top player. It is a lot of money, and we're going to see, and especially if there's a club willing to put in a transfer, which obviously, Yamal was linked to PSG. If that deal was to happen now, well, PSG, Barcelona has a lot of, hey, this is how much we need you to give us to really make this happen. You know what I mean? So it does give Barcelona a lot of control as far as, especially with a player with such high potential. But if you want to know the numbers to it, so he is essentially making $17 million a season. That's US dollars, by the way. $17 million a season, and it could get up to $23 million with bonuses. So the floor is $17 million a season. And if you guys want to break that down by the week, that is $368,000 a week, a little bit under $368,000 a week. Which, if you guys want a little bit of reference, that's a 4-bedroom house here in Houston, Texas. That kid is making, in 1 week, could buy a house here in Houston, Texas, a 4-bedroom house in Houston, Texas. That is that's impressive. That is awesome for him. Once again, I think this is a great deal. It's a lot of money for a 17-year-old, soon to be 18-year-old. But I mean, the way he's definitely earned it. I don't think anybody can say that he hasn't. He has. It feels like he just keeps getting better and better. So I think that there's no arguing it. I think the kid's legit. And so I think the concern will be, do they repeat, what happened with Messi? And I think, kind of what, and I mean, I don't think Messi was the big issue why they got into their massive debt. It didn't help, but it was obviously like making those doing, one, paying, not being honest about how much they were paying for Neymar, things like that. But it is interesting. It really is interesting nonetheless. But I don't think Barcelona is gonna make any big mistakes like they did that time around. Once again, they had to pay Messi that money. There's like maybe Messi could have been like, no, I don't want that much money. But like, I don't know. At the end of the day, you gotta take care of yourself, take care of your family, and I mean, yeah, 17 mil a season, bro. That his family is set. And I mean, I think that's gonna be the big thing for Yamal is he's gonna be looking after his family. And this is just what Barca's giving him. We're not even talking about sponsorships, anything like that. Like this kid, like I said, if he continues in the trajectory that everyone's expecting him to be, this kid is gonna be, yeah, he's world class. He's gonna be world class. So as long as he stays on track, man, the kid's gonna win a bunch of trophies. Kid's gonna not only internationally, not only club wise, but internationally as well. This kid's gonna win a Ballon d'Or someday. He's gonna. So yeah, very much well worth it, man. 17 mil a season, 23 if he wins a Ballon d'Or. Yeah, I think smart move for Barcelona and smart move for him. Because once again, once the contract is up, he's gonna be 23 years old, so he's getting another big contract right after that. And we're talking about now entering his prime years of a player. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, but. Yeah, that's headlines. We'll go ahead and take a break, and then we'll go into the Europa Conference League final.
Fight and win!
All right, guys, the Europa Conference League final had, obviously it's been happening, but yeah, Chelsea beat Real Betis 4-1. It wasn't even close. I mean, Chelsea was just very much the best team in the Europa Conference League, and yeah, it just wasn't close. They were not going to. They just weren't. They just weren't going to lose. Like, honestly, Real Betis, it was cool. It was cool. It was a fun run. I really wish they could have made it a little bit more competitive. They kind of did. They kind of made it competitive, sort of. It just, once again, 4-1. 4-1 is 4-1. But anyways, Chelsea had 67% of the possession. Real Betis actually outshot Chelsea 13-11. But Chelsea did have more shots on target, 7-3. The first goal came from Abdi from Real Betis in the 9th minute mark. So it looked good so far for Real Betis, but then in the second half, you have Enzo Fernandez scoring in the 65th minute. You got Nicholas Jackson scoring in the 70th minute. And then you had Jadon Sancho scoring in the 83rd minute. And then Moises Caicedo scoring in the 90th minute. It just, at that point, Chelsea took full control of the game and there was no going back. But yeah, Chelsea are winners of the Europa Conference League, they are the first club to win all 3 European competitions. It's fitting that Jose Mourinho became the first coach to win all 3 of the European competitions. Now Chelsea has won a team that Jose Mourinho has won a Champions League with, has won the Europa Conference League, so has done it all as well. Yeah, Chelsea was very much just they were literally men amongst boys when it came to this tournament. They were just the best team overall in the tournament. Once again, I think and then obviously Chelsea finished in the Champions League spot this season, so I think we're seeing Chelsea figuring things out. Like, you have a lot of players, a lot of good players on your team. You spend all that money on those players. And I think now it's kind of clicking for them. And so I think that's kind of where it goes to. Do I think Chelsea could be a force next season? Probably. I think so. I very much so think that like, it's not the level of competition is just going to get better, I think, in the Premier League. And I think Chelsea, once they figured out the kinks, they just got where they needed to be. So, yeah, but this is the interesting part. So, because Chelsea, because winning the Europa Conference League is guaranteed in the Europa League, but I mean, they're going to Champions League. I don't know. We'll see what happens when we start previewing these like cup next season when we preview the cup competitions. We'll find out things. But But Chelsea. It just wasn't close, man. It was nowhere near close. Chelsea was just clearly the better team, the best team in the Europa Conference League, and that's why they won it. They beat everybody. Like it wasn't even close. So, congrats to them, man. Congrats to them. That's all I gotta say, man. Congrats to Chelsea. Ending the year with some silverware. Something Arsenal cannot say. So, but all right, that's Europa Conference League.
Righteous Felon Craft Jerky is the official jerky of BellyUpSports. For over a decade, Righteous Felon Craft Jerky has led the American meat snack revolution by concocting delicious, adventurous, U.S.-sourced jerky recipes for uncompromising carnivores across the country. With 15 different flavors to choose from, Righteous Felon has all jerky lovers covered, and by using promo code BELLYUP, you will get 15% off your purchase at RighteousFelon.com. Do your taste buds a favor today and rip into a bag of Righteous Felon jerky.
All right, guys, Champions League final. PSG defeat Inter Milan 5-0 to win the Champions League for the first time in their club's history. PSG beat Inter Milan 5-0. PSG had 60% of the possession. PSG also outshot Inter Milan 23-8. And they also had more shots on target, 8-2. They had just as many shots on target as Inter Milan had shots overall. PSG was very much the best team on the field. They were just levels better than Inter Milan. Inter Milan just looked very flat. Defensively was just I don't know what to say. Midfield wasn't overall it was just not a great performance from Inter Milan. They had a game. I feel like they initially had a plan, and PSG just had the better strategy and they implemented it better. They just looked more fluid. They looked better. They looked like they knew what was coming, and I think that just goes back to just great preparation and great coaching. And PSG had 60% of the possession. I think I already said that, or I didn't say that. And then once again, obviously, outshot them 23-8. 8 shots on target for PSG to 2 shots on target for Inter Milan. The goals came in the 12-minute mark by Hakimi, Doué, who scored in the 20th minute mark and the 63rd mark. So the 2-0 lead, obviously they had a 2-0 lead in halftime, and then Inter Milan had moments where you felt like they could maybe turn some things around, but it just never worked into full fruition. And then as soon as Doué scored the third goal, his second goal, but the third goal, it basically was just like, all right, this is game. Kvaratskhelia scores in the 73rd, and Mayulo scores in the 86th-minute mark to put. The dagger was in the 63rd minute, but at this point, it was the meme of stop, he's already dead. So, but yeah. PSG had full control of this game, and Inter Milan just looked flat. Desiree Doué becomes the youngest player to record a goal and assist in the UEFA Champions League final. Bro, we need to talk about Doué. I think, once again, it goes back to just people don't really follow PSG as much, because, once again, it's PSG. It's the Farmers League. People don't like PSG because of the Qatari money. People call, Liga and the Farmers League. All these things, but they were almost undefeated in Liga, and it was something that we pointed out that no one's really talking about it. But and then obviously their initial start to the Champions League wasn't great. It was very overwhelming. They had to make it. It took the final day of matches for them to qualify for the knockout round, But Desiree Doué, a guy that I don't think anybody expected him to be a crucial piece for this team this season, but got on the field and it made sense. It made sense to have him there, and he really has been good. I think, we talk about Spain and how loaded that national team is. We just talked about Lamine Yamal getting his big contract, but Desiree Doué, who's only 18 years old, about to be 19. Like he's gonna have a strong future. And France, I mean, Spain and France, that's going to be the rivalry for quite some time because of how many young players they have. But I think going back to PSG, well, and on top of that, Seni Mayulo, he becomes the second youngest player to score a goal in the Champions League. Originally, it was Doué who scored in the 20th minute mark, who became the second youngest player. But then Mayulo comes in and comes off the bench and he scores one in the 86th minute mark, and then he becomes the second youngest player to score a goal in the UEFA Champions League final. If you guys want to know who the youngest player is Patrick Kluivert, who scored. He was 18 years and 327 days old when he scored his goal in the Champions League final, and I believe that was with Ajax. So, yes, this was PSG. Okay, say what you want about PSG. Hate PSG for all you want because of the Qatari money and all that, but this team was different from the other PSG teams. You lose Mbappe. This year, just specifically because you lose Mbappe, everyone's like basically writing this team off like they're not going to be good, but it worked the opposite way. Doué became phenomenal. Dembele probably has one of the best seasons that anyone can have, in Ligue 1. You still have Hakimi. You had Marquinhos leading this defense. Donnarumma. I wonder what's going to happen for him in the summer because there's speculation of him going to Inter Milan. Does he want to stay put in with PSG? I mean, look what they just accomplished. And then you go out and get Kvaratskhelia. You go get Kvaratskhelia in the January transfer window. You just build this attack, build this team. Because also you got Fabian Ruiz. Also, fun fact, Kvaratskhelia, not only did he PSG won a treble. They won the Coupe de France. They won the, obviously, Ligue 1 and Champions League. So they have accomplished a treble. This is phenomenal. This is great. This is what you want, what you expect from a top-tier team. And once again, there's no real big signing. I mean, they have signings. I mean, Dembele, but nothing like high marquee player-esque, if you will. These are, and also props to Marquinhos, bro. He's been with this team for 12 years. 12 years, and finally, he's been loyal to this team. He saw changes after changes after changes, right? You got Thiago Silva at one point, David Luiz at one point, Gigi Buffon was a goalkeeper at one point, Keylor Navas was a goalkeeper at one point. You had, Angel Di Maria, you had Lionel Messi, you had Zlatan Ibrahimovic, you had Edinson Cavani, you had David Beckham, you had Neymar, Mbappe. The list goes on and on of players to come to this club, and they could never get it. They could never get it done. And when I mean get it done, win the Champions League. The closest that they ever got to the Champions League was that COVID season. You went through coaches, right? You had the likes of Thomas Tuchel. You had, Carlo Ancelotti. You had, Mauricio Pochettino. I'm trying to think of it. Unai Emery. No, wait, was it Unai Emery? Yeah, Unai Emery. You've gone through so many coaches. And you get Luis Enrique, who just won the Euro to take over PSG. And you finally do it. You win your first Champions League title in club's history. This was the goal of of when the Qataris took over this team, was to build a strong club in France to win a Champions League, and they did it. They finally did it. This is like the encompassing of what this season is, right? You have teams, Harry Kane wins his first trophy, right? You have Tottenham winning their first trophy. Crystal Palace winning a trophy, Bologna winning a trophy. So many things, so many new faces, right? Why not PSG just lifting their first trophy? And I mean, props. You want to give some recognition to Inter Milan. They just look flat. But another Inter Milan, I mean, they gave Manchester City their first Champions League. So, and I'll say one thing positive about Inter Milan. This won't be the last time we see them here. I think that they're going. I think we'll see what changes they make this season, but this offseason. But they're still a very good team, and I don't want to take that away from them. But on top of all this, with Luis Enrique, obviously he leaves the Spanish national team job to take PSG. And once again, it's just the right guy. Last year he had that little talk with Mbappe, and he was confident. He's like, "Hey, we lost Mbappe, but I think we're a better team without him." The bread is in the pudding now. Bread is in the pudding. He said it, and it happened. It happened, right? He said it. This team is better without Mbappe, and stop him if he's lying now, right? But yes. And on top of that, man, last Champions League, the last time Luis Enrique won a Champions League, he had like this awesome photo of him, stamping the flag, with his daughter Sana. Unfortunately, she passed away at 9 years old, after battling cancer, and so you see the fans of PSG, making doing a tifo with him now with PSG with Sana, and for what that means, right? This is one of those moments where it's bigger than the sport kind of thing. Just a beautiful moment. Just a guy that deserves everything. I said it this year. We need to start appreciating Luis Enrique a little bit more. As a coach, because he's such a brilliant coach. He understands the players very well, and he understood it in a way to put these guys in the best position possible. I think a lot of youth players were utilized this year for PSG. This was a different PSG team, and I think Luis Enrique is definitely the reason for it. So I'm really happy for him. I think this is a great ending to this season for them. A great storybook ending for him in some sense. To have that moment and have like so many supporters be there for him in that kind of moment. It was beautiful, man. It was to the point where you kind of forget everything about how people feel about PSG, because it was awesome for them, man. Overall, this Champions League, was it the best Champions League? No. A team literally got blown out in the Champions League final. But it was still very entertaining. We got Linkin Park doing the pregame show. But everything was just beautiful, right? PSG put out just the performance of a lifetime, and for them to win their first Champions League final, it's gonna be exciting, man. I can't wait, man. This next Champions League, I wonder what the storylines are gonna be, but it's just crazy, right? PSG started this Champions League campaign terribly. It was not looking great, and it literally was when they faced off against Lille in that first knockout round. They beat the brakes out of Lille, and they were just like, all right, yeah, I got it now. And then they beat Liverpool. They beat, I believe, Aston Villa. They beat Arsenal. They went through the Premier League, right? And obviously Luis Enrique was like, I thought we were the Farmers League. They wasn't an easy pathway for them, but they handled their business. And I honestly, it goes back to that Lille matchup. I think it was as soon as they beat Lille in that play-in round, they were like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right, we're PSG. And they played very much like that. They were very great, deserving of a Champions League. Like I said in the when I previewed with Kelsey, this team does deserve to win a Champions League. Inter Milan also deserved to win one, but PSG also looked like they deserved to win a Champions League trophy. So, congratulations to PSG. Congratulations to Musa. Musa, I love you, buddy. I know that you're really happy with your family and all that. I know you're. Fun fact: Musa played for the academy at PSG, so really cool for him. So, congratulations to PSG for winning the Champions League, and we'll go ahead and segue into players of the week.
Anything's possible. Anything's possible.
All right, guys. Players of the Week is brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is an amazing ticketing app, website, however you use it. It is what I use to go buy my tickets for all live events that I go to, from concerts to live sporting events. SeatGeek has you covered. They have an amazing grading system, a very simple grading system to follow. If it is red and the score is very low, like point something or 2 point something, that means whoever's trying to sell you those tickets suck. Keep scrolling through the app, keep scrolling through the website. You're going to find a better deal. Now, if the score is really high, like a 10, and it's really green, that means that those seats for that price is a steal. Go ahead and enjoy your event. I love the simplicity of SeatGeek. Edward loves the simplicity of SeatGeek. And if you're not sold just yet, for first-time users, if you use the code BellyUpSports at checkout, you'll save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek Life's an event. We have the tickets. It's a Champions League version of Players of the Week this week. We got Ousmane Dembele. That's my player of the week, who created 2 assists in PSG's 5-0 win against Inter Milan. Is that performance going to be enough for Dembele to be put in the conversation for the Ballon d'Or? We'll see. We'll see what happens, man. And Edwards' player of the week is Desiree Doué, who scored 2 goals and assists. Youngest player in Champions League final history to have a goal and assist in a final. He had 2 goals and assists in PSG's 5-0 win against Inter Milan. So congratulations to Ousmane Dembele and Desiree Doué for being our players of the week. Once again, use that code BellyUpSports at checkout at SeatGeek.com for first-time users to save $20 off that first purchase. SeatGeek, Life's an event. We have the tickets. Games to watch this weekend. We got Colorado Rapids and Austin FC taking on. We also got the Vancouver Whitecaps taking on the Seattle Sounders. A little Cascadia Cup action over there in MLS. But, all right, we got some international matches as well. On Friday, we got Colombia versus Peru, Norway versus Italy, Guatemala taking on the Dominican Republic, Russia versus Nigeria, Ireland versus Senegal, Morocco versus Tunisia. Senegal, shout out to Musa once again. Saturday, we got USA versus Turkey, Canada versus Ukraine, Mexico versus Switzerland, Albania versus Serbia, and Austria versus Romania. Sunday, we have the UEFA Nations League final. That's going to be interesting. So we'll see who's going to be in the final. I don't know who in the final is yet. We have the matches will be played Wednesday and Thursday. So by Thursday, you'll know who's going to be in the final, but I don't know yet. So not all the matches, but still, nonetheless, some good matches to watch as well. So, all right, guys, we'll go ahead and take one more break, and then we'll wrap this show for you.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at BellyUpSports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to episode 221. Once again, this is the season finale. We will be taking a break. We will still, once again, there'll still be an episode for Club World Cup, Gold Cup, Leagues Cup. If there's any other tournaments that are happening this summer, we'll cover it as well. But those will be more short, very much specific episodes, so it won't be like the episodes that we do here. But yeah, this will be our season finale. We'll get back into it like around August to preview the leagues and get ready for another exciting season of football. But once again, check out BellyUpSports, BellyUpSports.com. Lots of articles that are being written. Check out some of the great shows that are over there as well, over there on their YouTube channel. Everything, man. It's a great program. Go ahead and check it out. Also, follow them on Instagram and X at BellyUpSports. Also, shout out to GolzTV, GOZ.TV. Follow them on Instagram at Golz.TV, GOZ.TV. And on the X at Golz_TV, GOZ_TV. Check out their website, Golz.TV, GOZ.TV. Follow them on YouTube, GolzTV. So you guys can see what's going on over there. Obviously, you got Eric Winalda. And, of course, you got the Wake Up MLS crew. You'll see me there from time to time, so be on the lookout as well over there. And also, shout out to Roosevelt Spencer, the namesake of the Roosevelt Spencer Player of the Year Award. We love Spencer so much. He makes the beats the intros, the outros for this podcast, and we really appreciate him for all the hard work he does for us. So that's why we named the award after the Player of the Year award after him. But yeah, man, expect another exciting season next year. It was a really cool year, very weird year, very bizarre year, but hey, it was an amazing year nonetheless, man. A lot of crazy changes in this game, and I can't wait for how it evolves for next season. But with all that being said, man, thank you so much for listening. Catch us next season.
Who is that guy?